Welcome to Delivering Miracles, a podcast to teach women like you tips and strategies on how you can have a safer pregnancy so you can bring home a healthy baby. I'm your host and your high-risk pregnancy expert, Parijat Deshpande. I can't wait to chat with you. So the other day, I had a girlfriend over at the house. She's single, and she's still in that dating world. So she's dating a few guys right now, and she was over talking about these guys that she's dating, and she's trying to make sense of, what it means, that what they're doing and not doing, and what do we make of it, and what's going on, and what can she expect. And there's this one guy in particular that she especially liked. And she was telling me that, he paid for dinner, but then he didn't open the door when he left. And then he didn't call for a few days, but he did text. And what does that mean? And I'll be really honest, I'm so out of that game. It's been so long since I've had to do any of that and really pay attention to, date at all, or like what guys are doing and what it means. It's been so many years. So I was having a little hard time kind of keeping up with this. Like, what are the cool kids? What are the kids doing now these days? What does it all mean? I don't know. So we were just chatting, we were on the sofa talking about it all and trying to dissect everything and trying to make sense of it all and see what she can expect to happen from these dates. And then my husband shows up. And my friend makes a beeline to him, and she runs over to him. She's like, okay, so I've got this guy that I went on a date with, and he paid for dinner, but then he didn't open the door when we got back to his car. Do guys even do that anymore? Should I stop expecting it? And then he didn't call, but then he did text me, and what does that mean? Does he like me? Does he not like me? I just want a guy's perspective. And the look on my husband's face was classic. Like, he totally just walked into the situation that he wished he could just kind of rewind and back away slowly. And he just had this, like, I don't know what to say. And he's looking at me like, what do I do? And I'm shooting these glances at him like, say something. She's asking you a question. And he's not saying anything. And it's just like, and she's waiting there in anticipation like, oh my gosh, he's going to tell me the ultimate truth. And it just was this like moment that went on for what felt like so much longer than it probably actually was, but it was just like frozen in time for what felt like forever. And it got me thinking that, we don't have a dating life anymore. Oh, that's really sad to say. I guess we sometimes go on dates, but we don't have a life like that anymore, right? Where we're having to make sense of somebody's behavior and trying to make sense of it. I don't know if maybe not everybody does that, but that isn't there anymore. But there is a lot of value in getting the other partner's perspective when you're going through something. And so it made me think, we had such a great response when my husband was on last time that I thought we'd bring him back. So welcome, Sonil. I'm glad you're back.
Thank you for having me back.
Thanks for being back.
Yeah.
So I had this idea. You remember that day, right? So since then I've been thinking.
I did not. It was like the Sex and the City episode.
Totally.
I did not handle it nearly as well as that guy did.
Burger. Yeah. Yeah. That was exactly what I was thinking actually. Yeah. As I was telling that story. But I've been thinking about it since then, and so I put out some feelers to some of our listeners and to people who are on my newsletter list and things about what do you want to know from a husband's perspective. What are your questions that you want a guy's perspective on, just like my friend did? And so we got some really great questions, and I just kind of want to go through them and see what you think and get your perspective. I think it's going to give our listeners a really great way of understanding what I think a lot of people are going through, but now seeing it through a guy's lens, I guess. Right? So if you're ready, you want me to start? Are you ready?
All right. There's nothing else I can do to prepare, so let's go for it.
Okay, let's go for it. Okay. So the first question comes from Julie, and she writes, I heard from my friends that their husbands aren't involved, and I don't want that. How do I get my husband to be more involved during my pregnancy and afterwards?
I guess the real question is, do you know the answer to this or not?
Well, that ship has sailed, so there you can't really mess this one up. It's a softball to start.
Well, I guess, I mean, I think either it could be the case that I think sometimes, kind of from my perspective, you don't really know how to be involved, or like what you can do to be involved. Like if the other person is pregnant, there's really not that much you can do a lot of the time. So sometime maybe like asking like what are good ways to be involved. I think that's a good way to help. I mean, unless your husband really doesn't want to be involved and would rather be like golfing or whatever, then I'm not sure what the answer is there.
Yeah. Well, okay, so devil's advocate. Being somebody who's been in that situation, sometimes it's really irritating to be asked, what do you want?
Oh, really? Oh, sorry.
You've
Oops.
never experienced that, ever. So, I mean, I think that's great, but like, is there anything else you can think of that when you think back to when I was pregnant? I mean, you were really involved, actually, so I know that came pretty easily to you. But if you think about, had you not been so involved, I mean, what would make you feel comfortable to be involved? Or why are men not involved sometimes, do you think? Maybe that's the better question to answer.
Well, I think a lot of it is not knowing like how you can be involved, or what you or having like ideas of like what you could do to be involved, since you're kind of physically so far removed from it. So I don't know. I think just any way to get like ideas on things to do to be involved, whether you talk about it yourselves, or maybe you point to, I don't know, some other website, someone maybe a little smarter than me who has like more specific ideas on like on what are actual things, like specific things you can do.
I think it speaks to also, this idea of feeling wanted, right? Like, if you know that I want you to be involved, then wouldn't you be more motivated to try to be involved?
Yeah, definitely. If you feel like it's having like being involved is like making you feel better or having some kind of positive effect, then I think it'd be more likely to. I think sometimes it can feel like it doesn't, like everything is so removed from you, it doesn't matter what you do, and then there's kind of no motivation to be involved.
Yeah, but it really does make such a difference, because then you have somebody to lean on. You have somebody who's, who's going through it with you as best as they can, considering that they're physically not involved in any way, but then emotionally they're involved, right? So, I mean, what kind of things can men do? I mean, you can, like, foot rubs are great, back rubs are great. Even if you're on pelvic rest, that's totally safe to do. You were really good about suggesting movies or TV shows to watch and coming up with that. Mm-hmm. So it was during fertility treatment, right, that you came up with that game? Oh my gosh, it's totally slipping my mind right now. The preview game.
Oh yes, the preview game was brilliant. It was the idea was we would start with a movie, and then we see the previews of the movie, and then we have the next movie we watch has to be one of the ones that's in the preview. No matter what's in the preview, no matter how bad it looks, we have to watch one of those.
It actually worked out really great, because it gave us a chance to watch the movies we otherwise would never have watched. And I'd say, maybe 70% of them turned out to be relatively good?
Yeah, I think so. Some of them were pretty bad, but...
Yeah, but we stuck to the game.
Yeah, well, otherwise we were just sitting there not able to decide what movie to watch for hours and hours.
Which still happens.
Yeah, I guess we got to go back to it.
I guess so. So, Julie, I hope this answers your question. I think a really good way to get your husband involved, to make sure that he's involved during pregnancy and after, is to find ways to motivate him to be involved, and really showing him that you are interested and you really want him to be involved, keep him close and keep giving him that positive feedback that when he is involved, it makes you feel good and that's what you want. And that's going to motivate him to keep staying involved. Okay, so this is really cool. We have a question from a husband, which is so freaking awesome that there's a husband listening to this podcast. Like, way to go, dude. So cool. Okay, so this husband asks, I listened to your podcast and wanted to ask your husband his perspective. I think my wife needs some more girlfriend time, and she says she doesn't want anyone to come over because she's on bed rest and she feels like a whale. Her words, not mine. Should I surprise her with some girlfriends to come over, or should I respect her wishes and back off? This question is from Vivek.
Okay.
This is a really good one.
This is a good one, and I think I'll show you that I have learned something, and the answer isn't just flat out no, definitely not. So I think really here the answer is, I mean, maybe it's a bit of a cop-out, but I think it depends on what your wife is like. I know that for my wife, I think doing things like this is stuff that she probably would have really liked, but I kind of would go with like the straightforward that, oh, she says she doesn't want to, so then I won't do anything like this. But
and then I sit there fuming because you haven't done it and I don't tell you about
exactly.
it.
Well, I thought you weren't feeling well or something, so yeah, or the hormones, right? The pregnancy hormones was probably it. I think like I think it really depends on like you know her better than anyone else. Like, does she really? Is she more concerned? Was she really gonna feel bad if you do it? Like, imagine if you did it. Is she gonna kind of feel like, I really wish you hadn't done that, or is she gonna maybe feel a little bit uncomfortable, but overall like have a good time?
I gotta say here too that my heart goes out to him and to other men, because you're kind of in a no-win situation, and I can see that it might feel like, oh my god, I'm gonna be in so much trouble either way. Especially if she's stressed and on top of that she's pregnant and she's got all this stuff going on, she's worried. So my heart goes out to you, Vivek. I know it's not easy, and I think you make a really good point that he knows her better than anybody, and so really trust your instincts on this, because you're probably right. Don't overthink it. Trust your instincts.
Yeah.
You're not
makes
convinced.
Sense. Kind of, yeah. I do agree that you said it's a no-win situation. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And I did joke earlier, half joke, I guess, that it's kind of annoying to be asked this. But if Vivek, if you sit down with her and you say, look, I really want you to be happy. I want you to have some moments of joy. And I'm worried about how much you've been really under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. It's been a hard time. I think we should invite blah, blah, blah people over. Or even just one of those people. What do you think? Do you think that would work? I'll handle all the scheduling. And then she might be more open to telling you very honestly. And she still might say no. But coming from a place of showing how much you care might be a really good way to get a solid answer from her.
That's a good idea.
You can try that someday.
Yeah. You should have told me about that earlier.
This is being very insightful for you than anything else, I think. Okay. So our next question from Mariah is, how do I get my husband to take my anxiety seriously and that it's real? He just tells me to think positive and stop focusing on the negatives, but I'm really worried. Oh my gosh, this comes up a lot with my clients too.
Yeah, this is a tough one, I guess. I mean, maybe again the question is like, why is he acting that way? Does he really think that there's nothing to be worried about? Or maybe, I think a common reaction is to say, and I think we've heard this from a lot of people throughout like this whole process, is to say everything is fine, don't worry about it, think positive.
Yeah.
Because they might think that that's what you need to hear, that's what's going to help. So that could be why he's saying it.
Yeah. The other thought that I had too was maybe this is really hard for him and he's so scared, because Mariah, you or like any of our listeners, those of you that are pregnant, you're worried about the baby. you're not so much worried about yourself, but your husband or your partner is worried about both of you. And so in some ways, he has more things to worry about, more anxieties. And I wonder if this is kind of his way of being like, it has to be fine.
Yeah, that totally could be, because it's definitely, like you said, like, you're not just worried about the baby, like, seeing you go through all these things, and then, like, know a lot of these things aren't good for your health, that's also, like, on your mind, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Mariah, I think, one thing that comes to mind for me is to tell him how it makes you feel when he says that. I mean, you didn't say it this way, but I'm guessing that it makes you feel like he's waving you off. He's not taking you, you said he's not taking you seriously. But like that he's waving you off, he's minimizing your experience. And I wonder, don't say it that accusatorily, is that a word? You know what I mean? Don't accuse him of doing that.
Nah.
But, sit him down when you both are in a relatively good mood and say, hey, appreciate what he is doing. And then let him know that, hey, when I tell you that I'm nervous about something, I know you mean well when you say to think positive, but that doesn't actually help me because that makes me feel like you don't understand what I'm going through. And what would be more helpful to say is, and then what do you want him to say? Just tell him that. Because maybe he doesn't know. Because if he's so overwhelmed with worrying about you and baby, he probably isn't thinking about what's the best thing to say for you because he just doesn't want any of this to be happening either.
I feel like that's the answer to all these questions. Simple. Just like, just say what you want, and then we're simple people. We'll just do it. No drama or anything, right?
Okay, done. Great. Episode finished. So, yeah, Mariah, I hope that was helpful. And for those of you that are listening, I know these conversations can be really hard, and I remember being in that position, too, of you're so worried about the baby. You're not feeling great. You have all these concerns and what ifs. And then on top of that, if your partner isn't acting exactly the way that you want, it's hard to want to have these conversations. Nobody wants to have these conversations. But this is an opportunity for both of you to really come together very closely, very strongly. And look, if there are cracks in the marriage now, they're only going to be accentuated once the baby comes. So it's actually a really great time to patch up some of these cracks so that you've got this really, really strong foundation for this home that you are going to bring your baby home to. Cool? Okay, so next question. My husband and I don't agree on anything. Ooh. Okay. We have different styles for the nursery. He wants me to be unmedicated birth and I want an epidural. He doesn't want to consider cord blood banking and I do. How can we come to an agreement for any of these things? This is sent by Ami.
Wow, that's a wide range of disagreements.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, between cord blood blanking and nursery decoration, that's.
I would almost say trade and tell him, you can have the nursery decision. I'll take the other two. Like some of those seem much more important than others.
Which, I gotta say, my therapist brain's kind of pinging, going, what's going on in the marriage? What's happening underneath there? I mean, if you're disagreeing on so many things, there might be something else going on. Yeah,
that's what you usually say to me when I disagree with you. Like, something's going on here. Why are you disagreeing again? Right?
Lie down on the couch and let's talk about it. I mean, what do you do in this situation? What would you tell her? Well, like,
I guess I'd want to know, understand, why they're disagreeing. Is there, a actual, good reasons or, fundamental differences? Or is there someone who can, if it's, a medical thing, can, a doctor help give the answer to the question? Or does it seem like they're just disagreeing to disagree? I mean, if it's the nursery, then a doctor probably can't help you unless they really like blue or something. But it feels like for the other ones, unless you're not listening to each other, there should be some way to kind of get more information, weigh the pros and cons, and make a informed decision together.
That's a good point. I want to add one thing too, is decision making is extra difficult when you're under stress.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's just for yourself. And when you add a partnership into it, it can really be even more impacted by that.
Yeah.
So, now may be a good time for both of you to take a baby moon. Take some time off, go, take a break, go do something that doesn't have anything to do with your pregnancy.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Chill out and then really see, is it really about blue versus yellow in the nursery or is it just you it was so much that you just needed to release the tension. It was coming out on each other.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like that could be the right way to go here.
Yeah. Cool. I hope that's helpful. And the other thing I want to mention to listeners too is it's okay if you need some additional support. If you find that you're just having a lot of additional stress in your relationship on top of everything else you're dealing with during your high-risk pregnancy, get some professional help. Get some support. Let somebody help you. Because this is the type of stress that you can manage and you can get under control very quickly. And if your partner won't agree to go with you, then you can go on your own. You can get support. If you're on bed rest, there's actually a lot of virtual options so that you don't actually have to go to see somebody in person. You can have them just show up on your phone screen or your laptop screen, and you can get support that way. And that's part of the reason why I offer virtual support for that reason. But there's plenty of other resources as well. So definitely, if you find yourselves just really at a gridlock and things in the relationship are causing additional stress on top of everything else, it's not worth it to try to keep trudging through it and hoping that it gets better. Might as well just address the issue as quickly as you can so it's no longer an issue for you. Okay, so next question from Rachel. What does it mean that my husband never wants to talk about the pregnancy? Every time I bring it up, he doesn't talk about it, doesn't really say anything, and then as soon as I'm done talking, he'll change the subject. He'll never bring it up or ask me how I'm feeling. I hate that, and I want him to talk to me and share how he's feeling too, but he's just so shut down, I don't know what else to do.
Next question? No, it sounds like it could be kind of similar. For some reason, it must be hard for him to talk about it. Maybe it's really scary or it's really stressful. So that's probably what's happening. So I think I feel like either, again, maybe just having similar to that last one, having a conversation about it. It's like, hey, this is what would help me. This is what would help me feel supported. And I don't know, maybe that might work. What do you think?
Yeah. Rachel, you said you have a husband, right? Yeah. Men respond to stress differently than women do. Their brains literally look different. They function differently when they're under stress, when they're anxious, and when they're worried. And what happens is their brains literally get flooded very quickly with the stress hormone, and their way of handling it is, as you said, to shut down. It's called stonewalling. And that's just biologically how men are different than women. Women can tolerate a lot more stress and can function through a lot more stress for a longer period of time, for better or for worse. That's not necessarily a good thing, right? But in this case, you're seeing that it's impacting his ability to communicate. And so I completely agree with you that you should kind of give him some tools, give him some ideas and words on what to use, give him some suggestions on how to help. But I think even before that, let him cool off. Let him have some time where you're not talking about the pregnancy. Let him calm down. Let his body calm down. Let his brain and his stress response calm down. And then he's going to be way more open to hearing what your suggestions are.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Definitely.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got just a couple more. We have Sarah who wrote in and said, we had a 27-weeker a few years ago. My husband is dying for more children, but I don't want to have any more. I don't want to go through that again, and I don't know what to do. How can I convince him not to have more children? Yoza.
This is a tough one. Can we go back to talking about blue versus yellow nurseries? Blue, definitely the way to go. I think this is a really tough one. I guess I guess the question, I guess one question would be like why, like, I guess make sure you both understand like why, what's important to you, and why you either do want to have another kid or why you don't. Um, and then I guess just be able to talk about it and understand what's important to each other, and then I don't know, hope somehow it becomes clear at some point.
Do you think he's thinking that this won't happen again, that they won't have another micro preemie?
Yeah, he could be thinking it won't happen again, or he could just really want another kid, so he could be thinking like, hey, I since this is the only way, like, let me just assume it won't happen again and everything will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, right? When you want children, that drive is so strong.
Yeah, so it can be hard to like actually think realistically. Like, you can just think like, what if it works, or the opposite, what if it doesn't work? So maybe just making sure both of you are like seeing both sides of that.
Yeah, and I wonder if, here is a good opportunity to talk to your doctor. Go make an appointment with a high risk specialist, because definitely, even if you weren't high risk before, you're high risk now.
Mm-hmm.
And get the medical information about what's the chance of you having another preemie. Maybe what happened last time is so unusual or not something that typically repeats itself. Like, for example, if you had preeclampsia last time, your risk of preeclampsia again this time is much higher. If you had an incompetent cervix, your chances of delivering early are higher. But now that you know, there are things you can do about it to help reduce your risk of delivering early. So maybe both of you going to the doctor and kind of hearing the numbers could help put this in perspective. So you're not like, I hope it works out, I never want to do this again. But now it's a little bit more of a factual discussion.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So to get it from like whose side it is to like actually just looking at the facts, and that might help get you both kind of thinking the same way, at least.
Yeah. I was just thinking, other than the dad who wrote in, all these women are talking about, how do I get my husband to act differently?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever wish that we acted differently during pregnancy?
Never at all. We're always trying to think, how can I be a better husband during this pregnancy?
That's so sweet. Okay, so we've got one last one. And this one's a doozy.
All right.
Ready for it?
Bring it on.
Okay. I just found out my husband cheated on me.
Oh, no.
He was talking to the woman since I was on bed rest a few months ago. I don't know if I should leave him or try to work it out. We went through so much to have this baby. I don't know why he would do this. This is from Molly. Oh, Molly, my heart goes out to you.
Wow. Well, I'm glad we're ending on a nice, fun one here.
Well, I don't know that it's fun because her heart is breaking somewhere.
Yeah, I don't. That's awful, right?
It is awful.
And it's one thing that he cheated on her. It feels even worse that she was on bed rest at the time, God. Like,
right?
With trying to keep their baby, trying to carry the baby to term while struggling to do that.
I know. I don't know that I could get over that.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, now when you say it like that, I don't know that I'd be able to get over that.
Yeah, that's a pretty rough one. I think it's hard to see how you can come back from that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to hear what he has to say for himself.
Yeah, I wish he had written in. Maybe we should get him on. Molly, if you're listening, shoot me an email. Maybe we can talk to both of you and we can sort this out. No, in all seriousness, though, Molly, this is kind of going back to what I was saying earlier. I would really suggest going to therapy. Find a good couples therapist or marriage therapist in your area. If you can't take your kiddo there, if it's too busy right now with a little baby, because I think you said you just delivered recently, bed rest was a few months ago, so hasn't even been a year. You can do online therapy. There's telemedicine. There's plenty of platforms that has this possible. If you want a referral, I actually know somebody who's great for this. She was on the podcast a little while ago. I think that's probably the best thing to do, because I don't think we can sit here and figure out what you should do, because I think we're both kind of like, wait, what?
Nah, leave him. I'm decided. It's over.
It's very easy, very simple. Okay, done. Anyway, thank you guys so much for writing in. This was super awesome. I think it really shows all the different ripple effects that high-risk pregnancy has, right? Like, it's not just about what complication do I have and how do I get through the complication. And it's not even just what am I going through, but it ripples into the rest of the family. I mean, we didn't have any questions about parenting other children, but like if you have other children at home, it affects your relationship and your ability to parent them too. This goes on. I mean, it's a tiny little pebble, or maybe it feels like a big boulder, but there are just ripples upon ripples of all the different ways that it affects you and your world, which then it makes sense why when it's over, it's so hard to heal from, because you're having to take so many steps to get back to where you were, so many more than you realize, right?
Yeah, totally. That it adds a huge weight to everything.
Yeah, totally. So I so appreciate you all for writing in and sending your questions. And if you are listening and you have questions you want us to address, if you want Sonil to come back, I can certainly make that happen. But if you have questions for me too, I'm happy to answer. Just shoot me an email at podcast@parijatdeshpande.com and we will totally have your question answered on an episode. And we can certainly do that. And then more and more people can benefit from questions, because I'm a if you're listening, at least one of these questions is something that you or your partner has thought about, or it's come up in some way.
I think a couple, seems like a couple of them really hit home for you.
Yeah, I paid them a couple $100 to say that. So before we wrap up, do you have any last words of hope for couples that are going through a high-risk pregnancy?
Yeah, I mean, I think just it can be super hard, and it can make things a lot harder in your marriage, but it's also an opportunity to like fully like really be on the same team and to like accomplish something huge together. And if you can make it like a together thing, then it can really be like a huge positive in your relationship.
Yeah. And what a great way to bring a child into the world, when you're so closely bonded and so closely tied because you've been through this together. Yeah,
exactly. It's such a shared experience. Like it's already such a shared thing to have a child together, and going through such a rough experience kind of can bring you like so much closer together.
Yeah, totally true. Do you think we're closer because of it?
Oh, definitely. Right?
I know that smile. Okay, we'll talk later. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. This was such a blast. Thank you for being on the episode again.
You're welcome. You say it like it was a choice, but you're welcome.
I'll give you your couple
$100
later.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed today's episode, I would love it if you can head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review so we can continue to get amazing guests like Sonil back on our podcast and continue to provide you with inspiration, tips, advice, and motivation to help you get through your high-risk pregnancy. And if you are going through a high-risk pregnancy right now and you're sick of waiting for that other shoe to drop and you're ready to get back in control so you can stay pregnant as long as possible and give your baby that strong start to life that I know you so desperately want, I would love for you to schedule a complimentary consultation, and you can do that by visiting my website at parijatdeshpande.com. Also, I would love to stay in touch, so follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. The handles for all three are Parijat Desh, that's PARIJATDESH. A high-risk pregnancy affects so much more than we realize. It is truly, truly life-altering, but it doesn't mean that it is life-breaking. You can still put the pieces back together. You can still prevent the ripples from having a huge impact on your entire life, and you can be in control of it as long as you know what you need and you ask for it, because you truly do deserve it. Take it one day, one step at a time. You can do this.